Do you ever feel like you're on the treadmill of constantly chasing new clients? A few years back, I would stress over chasing clients for weeks, booking calls and bending over backwards for them, only to have them ghost me right at the end.
Ghosting me.
Just as I was close to giving up entirely, I tested 30 different email templates and uncovered a hidden gem that gave me a glimmer of hope. Months later, I had transformed my business, working fewer hours, making more money, and making faster sales, and attracting higher paying clients with zero treadmill chasing. What was this email and how did I use it? Well, in order to make the best use of my email, I had to understand the reason I was struggling to make sales in the first place. Have you ever dug around in your couch and found a few old coins? Years ago, my stepdad told me about a story when he needed money to pay some bills. He had no food in the house and he wouldn't get paid for a few days. Now, at the time, he was just a young man just starting out in his career, and he lived in a tiny rented flat with hardly any furniture except for an old sofa. And so he thought to himself, I wonder if that sofa has ever been cleaned. So he walked up to it, lifted up each cushion and tipped it on its front, and he told me it was like Aladdin's cave, spilling out gold coins across the floor, raining money down across the living room. He kept shaking the couch and more money kept falling out. Eventually, he found enough spare change to get a decent meal, pay his electric bill, and do a bit of grocery shopping. He even had enough money to go to the cinema. Now, this was about 1970 something, so presumably 10 quid in spare change back then was enough to put a down payment on a house and buy a 3-week holiday. But back to where I was with my agency, we were struggling, feeling like I was on that treadmill because I always needed new leads and clients. Now, at the time, email automation was really taking off, and everyone was teaching about long follow-up sequences, upsell sequences, and email automation. They were teaching about sales emails, promotions, fire sales, webinars, and those 30 different emails that I tried, I sent them over and over and over, and I got nothing back. And it was when I was setting up my next automation sequence, because the previous ones had worked so well, that I had a big red pop-up appear on screen with a catastrophic message.
You have failed to pay your bill for this month. Unless we receive payment in 7 days, your account will be suspended.
Now, I was dumbstruck. The very tool I relied on to make sales was going to be shut down unless it did the very thing I needed it to do. My open rates and my click rates looked good, but no one was responding to my emails. I was using email templates from the best email marketers on the planet. So what was going wrong? Now I was in full-blown panic mode. I realized that I might have been defeated. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Or maybe everything I had achieved in the past had been fluke. Within a few days, my CRM would be shut off and I'd have to pay the team with the $0 that I had in the bank account. I was supposed to be a marketing agency and I couldn't even secure leads and clients for myself. I worked out that I needed about 4 new clients in order to just break even. So I dug deep and I wrote hundreds of emails with dozens of automations. Triggers, A/B testing, pathways, logic gates. They were sophisticated and complex and beautiful. And I thought the emails were well written, smart, poignant, and had strong calls to action. All I was trying to do was to get people to jump on a call with. I hit save and publish, my email list got loaded in, and I got 2 replies. All that work and effort, and I got 2 people responding. Now I was absolutely devastated. These weren't sales, by the way. These were just replies. I had sent emails to over 10,000 people and only 2 people emailed me back. And this is when I knew I had to do something different. It wasn't about working harder. I needed to know why those 2 people replied. I was desperate and I knew I'd try anything. Unless I made some sales fast, my CRM would be shut off and I'd be stuck. So I dug around in the automations trying to trace the individual contacts and see which emails they had seen. And what I saw blew me away. I already knew these people. Now, if you're wondering if I managed to sell and close these people, you first have to understand that I didn't ever think these 2 people in particular would ever buy from me. They were customers that had left me for a competitor competitor a few months back. I dove deeper into my automations and saw that these two ex-customers both replied to the same email. And what's crazy is that it was one that I had written almost out of desperation. I hadn't really given it much thought or credit because it seemed too simple.
There is no way this will ever work.
I needed to fill out my automations, so I threw it in there as a bit of a last-ditch attempt. I took a look to see which automation they were in, and it was a random follow-up sequence sent to most of my email subscribers. But what was staggering is that they were the only two previous clients in the automation, not by design or some genius level strategy, but pure dumb luck. And that's when I remembered my stepdad's story about the couch and finding a ton of change hidden in it only when he started shaking it. So I asked myself, where's my couch? Where's my money hidden? And then it struck me that I'd been ignoring a massive segment of my email list. But who did I send it to? Who had I been ignoring and neglecting? And what did I send? Well, there's likely three types of people in your list or database. So I had these three buckets: never, almost, and had. Bucket number one, the never bucket, was people I had never heard back from or who had never really engaged with me in the first place. They were on the list, but they'd never taken further action. This was by far the largest bucket, and I didn't send anything. Bucket number two was much smaller than bucket number one, but this bucket, the almost bucket, had people who either had seen a proposal and didn't respond, or who decided to go with a competitor. So I emailed bucket number two, the people who had almost bought from me. I was offering them another chance to work with me. Now we'll get to the actual email I sent in a minute, but before that it was bucket number three, and that was people who had bought from me. These were my current customers and ex-customers. Even if they have left me, I still wanted to reach out to them. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that when people leave you for a competitor, 3 months later, they're usually pretty unhappy with what they're getting. And what did I send them? I basically wrote an email saying, hey Frank, do you still want this killer offer that's super specific to you and will get this particular result? Hit reply and let me know. That was it. That was the entire email. I asked them if they wanted to talk through how we could generate them $10,000 in sales in the next 40 days. If they wanted to do that, hit reply and let's book in a call. Now the thing is, even if you do decide to send this very short, direct email, you still need something killer in the copy that's so desirable they'd feel stupid turning you down. So watch this video right here to see why this email doesn't work on its own and how I generated over $36,000 in sales in 1 week using an old product and changing the name and offer only so that you can